Welcome to Contact Point, the podcast that brings together specialists from TTI and our supplier colleagues from Phoenix Contact with discussion, information, and insights on the newest technologies helping the world move to an all-electric society. And now, Contact Point.
Thanks, Jim, and welcome everybody to Contact Point, a joint podcast between Phoenix Contact and TTI. With you today is myself, John Sandy, from TTI, and joining us from Phoenix Contact is Mark Langille. Hey, Mark, good to talk to you. Welcome.
Hi, John.
So why don't we kick this off, Mark? Why don't you just tell everybody on all of our listeners a little bit about yourself and what your role is at Phoenix Contact?
Sure, thanks. I'm the product marketing manager for networking products within the IMA group. Basically the networking products cover all of our managed switches, unmanaged switches, a variety of industrialized wireless gear, including Wi-Fi, cellular, trusted Wi-Fi for process industry, and then as well a line of cybersecurity products called MGuard. And I have three key vigilant product specialists that cover each of those kind of product silos, and principally responsible for our more strategic elements around product marketing and product sales.
Why don't you give us a little bit of an overview of network switch? And I know specifically we've talked before about FL1000.
One of the cores of Phoenix Contact has always been industrial products in general that are purposeful built, I like to say, by machine builders for machine builders. And the FL1000 switch lineup is really no different. It's a industrialized network switch that took the core tenets of a network switch for the IT realm, but then the design engineers really looked at it and said, what are the core things that a panel builder, that a machine builder need to have in order to have a positive customer experience when they're building their panel? And then what will the machine end users need to have when they're servicing this machine and when they're dealing with the network switch? And so really to the very nth detail, the design engineering team and the manufacturing engineering team took a look at the design and built a number of key elements into it so that it really functions well in the industrial realm. Like an example of that would be a typical network switch that you're going to find in an IT closet or even at a big box store from a consumer perspective isn't going to have quality of service capabilities to prioritize industrial network traffic, so that key information that needs to be at certain places to help close the loop from a PLC perspective. The standard IT switch isn't going to have that capability, but for customers that are using things like BACnet or Ethernet IP, Modbus, Profinet, they want to prioritize their traffic. And so what's the main thing that the switch needs to do? It's the pipes that carry that data. And the FL1000 is able to do that, carrying and prioritize the key data. The next thing that a machine builder needs to be able to do is have flexibility, depending upon the number of inputs, the number of outputs, and the devices that they're going to put into and connect into the control cabinet. And so in terms of, another key thing that's been intentionally designed in is a high density of number of ports and some of the slimmest designs that are out there in the market. So this gives the machine builder a great amount of flexibility to really use the space that's in the cabinet with the utmost efficiency, and really gives them the capability to quote unquote pack the cabinet as densely as possible, but all the while still being able to get at all of the wires and port connections. And so another key thing is that the power connection for the FL1000 is in a push-in connector from Phoenix Contact. So it uses that trusted capability and technology from Phoenix Contact that's located at the bottom, not on the top and not on the side, but at the bottom, I'll call it bottom front of all the switches. And it makes that power connection sort of separate from all the RJ45 or the fiber connections, but still easy to get at. And again, that push-in connection locks it in place, but it only takes a simple small screwdriver to remove it. So just goes back to that, by machine builders for machine builders, easy to connect. And then, where we're talking about connection, the switch can take in either 24 volts or AC power. So someone building a panel doesn't feel like they have to be hemmed in to use one power source or the other. So this makes it convenient from a wiring and from a maintenance perspective. You have technicians that may be more comfortable with one or the other, and this gives machine builders flexibility to run, either type of industrial grade power to them. And then the last piece of it is, so you've kind of packed the cabinet at maximum density, and you've got, your power run into it. The very next thing that comes into play is heat and heat dissipation. And so the FL Switch 1000 has really been designed and rigorously tested to stand up to the heat dissipation, and the heat environment, can come into play here. So whereas many competitors out there may say, well, our switch will work all the way up to 70 degrees C, you can be sure that with a Phoenix Contact switch, you've got plenty of headroom, and that it's going to work continuously over 70 degrees C, not just, well, it might make it up to 70 degrees C. So guys in the industrial realm like to know that this thing is just going to work no matter what, and then kind of with no excuses. And I really think that the Phoenix Contact FL1000 switch, delivers that in spades. And then one other key element is really flexibility from a mounting perspective. So the Phoenix Contact design team has built in a number of different ways that the switch can be mounted on a standard DIN rail, but also vertically up, vertically down, and the standard mounting bracket allows for multiple different orientations. And again, the ports are fashioned so that they can make a smooth cable train out, and everybody can be proud of good wire management from a wiring perspective. And then the last kind of little touch is, so you talk about all the way down to the end user. And when the end user opens up the cabinet, they can see that, yeah, we've got power run here, good wire management here, but the LEDs themselves are designed so that they can be viewed from the front and from the side, and easily readable from a troubleshooting perspective. So, you don't need them till you need them, but in setup and in maintenance and in downtime situations, it's nice to be able to make sure that those LEDs are readily viewable. And again, the design team within Phoenix Contact has really made sure that, all of these capabilities are built into it. And then on top of it, like I said before, many different permutations of all the way from the kind of basic building block for data, which is a 5-port switch, all the way out to now we've just recently released a 24-port device NT in the 65 millimeter housing. So just endless varieties and capabilities but the core tenet of the product is this, just really solidly built and well thought out package.
Yeah, Mark, that's a really good overview. I'm sitting here thinking about it. It's one of those products that you appreciate the more you use it, and you appreciate the fact that it was built by people who understand what I need, what I'm looking for, and how I'm going to use that product, and understand what my requirements are. And I think it's a definite compliment to the product that it's one of these things that the more you look at it, the more you see, the more you appreciate it. So that is a great overview. Now, maybe are there any key trends in the market that are driving this and other products, and where do you see the market requirements sort of going the rest of 2023 into 2024? Is there anything key that's actually driving this product and maybe future product developments?
Yeah, so I mean, it's really interesting that you ask that. So I think one interesting trend that I see out there is if you start kind of at the top end, right? So what we just talked about was everything inside of the control cabinet, but the layer above that is the outside world. And then kind of, again, if you look at the old paradigm of the industrial automation pyramid, at the top level, you've got your ERP or MES, management execution system. And at the bottom, all the way down to the bottom, you've got sensors. And so if we look at how does the outside world interface with that whole automation pyramid? We have just recently released an upgrade to our vaunted MGuard product line, and the MGuard product line is a VPN security firewall and NAT switch and router all combined into one device. And so if you think about it, and the big portion of this new release is that it's now a gigabit enabled product, which, more and more people are always looking for higher bandwidth. And so the exciting thing now is that the MGuard product line is, supporting gigabit throughput and provides you that VPN connection, secure connection to the outside world. It can help secure once you're now going from outside to inside the plant. You can help keep each of your areas segmented with the firewall capability, and then proper segmentation. You can use the network address translation and routing capabilities of the MGuard to route that traffic to the different locations in the plant that it needs to go to. You have the FL1000 switch as the main pipes to send that data and information to and fro, and then all the way down at the edge now with the SPE single pair Ethernet switch. You have the capability of the sensors down at the bottom edge to be able not only to speak to everything and send that traffic and data up through to all the way up to the top to the MES and to the ERP system, but the other thing that SPE switch does is, if you have a secure setup that the MGuard provides, now that SPE enabled device, that SPE sensor, can talk to the cloud, can talk to your AI database, and it really begins to, I don't want to say completely blow up the automation pyramid, but it does allow for a much more decentralized scheme where different types of compute that need to happen in different locations and different resources, sort of dynamic resource allocation, can be realized and can be and should be the beginnings of whole new ways to develop control and industrial architectures.
It's sounding like that if I look at Phoenix and the products you've got, you're really able to give me a solution to any problem that I might come up with. And as my system becomes maybe less centralized, more decentralized, I've got options as far as how I can integrate that into my system. Would that be a fair comment?
Yeah, I think the capabilities from both from a network perspective that we have, but then from a controls perspective as well. Start talking about PLC Next and its open architecture, and then its additional capabilities that it brings, both from the ability to do compute and control locally, but then the ability to draw in other outside resources. Yeah, we're definitely looking at kind of what I would think is really the realization, right, of Industry 4.0. But for me and the rest of the networking team, it starts with having that robust network communication between the devices, and then what's becoming, more and more important is, do we have, network security? And I would say we hear it more from people from the European realm, and we hear a lot more about IEC 62443, which is the machine security directive. But from my perspective, regardless of whether you are implementing 62443 and want a 62443 certified machine, or whether you're just using 62443 as a guideline, and because that it's a well thought out standard, I think that for sure Phoenix Contact is a company that you can rely upon to provide you guidance in any of those realms or genres.
And if we look at, to expand upon that a little bit, obviously you're seeing trends in the industry right now. We're going in slightly different directions than maybe we were this time last year or the year before. What are the key trends, drivers that you're seeing that are going to impact Phoenix Contact and maybe your product development as we move forward from here?
Mm-hmm. I just touched on 62443 and security. I think it's a key element, regardless of critical industries for Phoenix Contact, are things such as critical infrastructure, industrial controls, building automation, and process industry. A common thread amongst all of those is this secure? Who has access to the system? And then how do we know who has had access and what sort of changes have been initiated in the system? And so I think one of the things that we're really looking at is, again, via the 62443 standard, what are the requirements that customers are going to need to be able to track, patch, and upgrade their systems to keep pace with both the things like we talked about, the M-Guard and the FL1000, which is gigabit speed, or even next up from that is even 10 gigabit speed. And how do we make sure that all of these devices down at the sensor level, having IP addresses and talking to the cloud, how do we make sure all of these devices are updated and secure ultimately, so that the network and the manufacturing OT environment is stable and robust?
Yeah, I think you've hit the nail there on the head, Mark. I mean, reliable, stable, robust, and flexible. So if I'm looking at what we've just talked about through there over the last 5-10 minutes, I'm getting a good picture for Phoenix Contact being able to address those problems and give me a solution, which is exactly what our listeners are looking for. Let's talk about trends and what are you seeing?
I always go back to what are the problems we're solving in the OT space that customers are coming to us with, or that we're finding. We take a look at these higher order things. The main trend that we're seeing, that we're trying to impress upon the OT crowd, is to try to look beyond just a very flat network, and to try to make sure that, number one, that their network is properly segmented. And proper segmentation really keeps different elements of the network isolated from one another. And it's not necessarily an easy thing to do. If you can imagine, many manufacturing facilities are like an archaeological dig of this year and that year's big OT initiative or operational initiative. And so you get these layers upon layers, and not necessarily like a well thought out network. The network just kind of works and we don't touch it. And unfortunately that makes for a brittle and maybe not necessarily such a robust network. So with the M-Guard and the FL1000, and then our managed line, the FL2000, it really gives the OT owners the capabilities to properly segment their network, make it more robust, have it carry that higher load, so have it upgraded to gigabit, or what's coming down the road in 10 gigabit. And then, once they have a well-segmented network, they should make sure that people are, coming to us and looking for capabilities to, how do we properly identify all the equipment and have it mapped that's on the network? And how do we make sure that equipment is properly updated and patched and secure? And I think that's what's coming down the pike from us, is the capabilities to help customers handle that, not only the segmentation piece, but as well the updating, patching, and keeping their equipment secure.
Thanks very much. That was a great way to finish this segment. Appreciate your time today. Thank you, everybody. That was Mark Langille from Phoenix Contact.
Thanks, John.
Join us again for our next installment of Contact Point. Talk to you again soon. Thank you very much.
Thank you for joining us today on Contact Point. Keep up with the latest episodes on tti.com/podcasts.